Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the I Do Music podcast, and our goal and our mission is to empower and educate musicians and artists worldwide. And on today's episode, we sat down with entertainment attorney, aka the Bag Collector, Bernie Lawrence-Watkins, discussing how she started as an artist in a girl group, educating her clients on the legal business, and making sacrifices to establish her business and her firm. Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the I Do Music podcast, and I'm sitting down with entertainment attorney, over 20 years in the business.
Yes.
Just doing the doggone thing. Bernie Lawrence-Watkins, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate you. This is my second opportunity to speak with you, but now one-on-one. We had the opportunity to do a panel. What was that, last year or the year before last? I think it was last year.
December 2018.
18. Okay, so it was 2 years ago. We had the opportunity to speak on a panel about music and culture, and you were really enlightening. I found out you were my Howard alum, fellow Howard HU, you know? Yes, absolutely. So you represent a lot of producers, artists. Your clientele ranges from like really, really big acts in the music business, specifically hip hop here in Atlanta. You were named like one of the top entertainment lawyers, according to Rolling Out, I want to say. And, you know, just I'm curious to know how you established yourself as the number one, you know, the person to go to when it comes to like getting the legalities in check. So early on, I'm curious to know, why did you even pursue law school? What was it about law that enticed you?
It's a little, I can't really hear now. What enticed me to go to law school? Well, let me start back to growing up in New York City. I've always been involved in music. I love music. I used to sing in my youth, and I ended up attending a performing arts high school, LaGuardia High School of Music and the Performing Arts, where my major was voice. So I actually thought that I was going to pursue a career in voice and that I would be singing.
Nice.
And during that time, I have a brother who was really involved in hip hop, and he was close friends with Herbie Lovebug, who we know as the founder of Salt and Pepper. And then you have Kid and Play, who's from my neighborhood, who Herbie founded. And then I was in school with the likes of people like Dana Dane and Slick Rick. And so
I
was
attended school together.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, I know I'm dating myself.
No, it's fine. That's dope.
So I was always involved in hip hop in some kind of way. I also actually started rapping during that time.
Nice. What was your artist name?
Lady B.
Lady B.
Yeah, Lady B. Yeah.
Nice.
And then actually I was part of a group that was formed by Herbie at the time, and it was called Supernature.
Nice.
And if you know that history, then you'll know what evolved from that. It was myself and two other young ladies, and that were in high school with me, and he taught us how to rap. Things didn't go according to plan because they were not really into what he was putting together at that time. So the group ended up falling apart. But hence, you know, he went on and he founded Salt and Pepper,
right?
Whose name he had given Supernature in the beginning. So I ended up going to Howard University. And while I was attending Howard University with my brother, he formed a rap group with a gentleman by the name of Derek D. Angeletti. And they were known as Two Kings in a Cipher. They ended up getting a record deal. And being that I was close to him, I was able to see what was going on behind the scenes, and I didn't particularly care for it. And they ended up losing that deal. And I said, I'm going to go on to law school. At that point, that was confirmation for me to go on to law school and become an entertainment lawyer to work with artists, producers, and creative people to make sure that they got the best deals possible. So it was a way for me to marry the two, music and the law, a way that I could fight for people's rights. And I've been on a mission ever since. I'm very passionate about the area of music and the creative arts because, it's near and dear to me, something that I was always involved in. And when I was coming up, I didn't have any entertainment lawyers in my family. I didn't have any lawyers in my family. I didn't really have any go-to people that I could reach out to. And a lot of information I discovered through the form of research. I was very hungry, very determined, and to me, I was not on a mission to become number one. I was actually on a mission to be the best that I could possibly be at what I do.
Right.
And how do I separate myself from the rest? Just being, having integrity with who I am as a person and being authentic in terms of what I represent.
Right.
And to me, that is what has carried me through the years. When I work with people, they're able to see that what I say is real. I'm not about really talking, I'm about action. So when I say I'm going to do something, then I'll get it done, because it's really about putting my clients in the best position possible, and not just about closing a deal. If I see a deal and it's not good, I'm going to let my client know it's not a good deal. And if they still want to move forward with it, to tell you the truth, I really don't want to be associated with it, because I don't want my name being
Attached
part of
to
a
that.
deal that's not considered to be beneficial for my client. And it's really important to me that my clients are educated in this business, because it is a business. So I talk to them about the business of entertainment, the business of music. And it's an education process. And if you're not interested in being educated, then my firm is not the place for you, and I'm not the attorney to be representing you.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask you about how you're able to educate them on the legalities. Because, I mean, honestly, like, even just going forth to get an attorney is kind of intimidating if you don't understand the business, if you never had an attorney for, like, your actual business, not saying like, oh, I'm in trouble and now I need an attorney. That's usually the first step for a lot of people. It's like, oh, okay, I got into this accident and now I need this attorney, or I'm going through a divorce and I need an attorney. But people in the music space specifically need that sort of legal help early on, especially as producers or songwriters, when you're trying to get what you are owed or you're deserving, right? But I wanted to specifically ask you, like, is there a process for you when you have a new client and they're fresh and they may have just gotten a hit and now it's like everything's taken off and they come to you? How do you go about, what does that education process look like for you? What are the sorts of things that you're trying to tell them early on? Like, aside from like, this may not be the best opportunity for you, or this may be the best opportunity for you?
Well, the first thing I tell them is you have to change your way of thinking. This is not just a song. This is not just a hit record. You are not just a producer or just an artist. You have to see yourself as a business.
Right.
Because this is a business. So how are you structured legally? So, want to know about your foundation. If you don't have a company, then let's set you up. If you have a business, what type of business is it? So if we're dealing with artists, I want them to understand the importance of structure. Okay, so you want to have at least 5 different businesses. For example, you want to you want to make sure you have an entertainment company, so all your agreements are going through that company. You have to have a publishing company. You're writing songs, so let's set up a publishing company. You're going to be going on tour as an artist. Let's set up a touring company. When you're on tour, you're going to be selling merch. Let's set up a merch company. And then you're also going to want to sell merch online. Let's set up a separate merch company for online sales. So at least 5 that you're going to start out with. And so you got to understand why, because you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. So, it's an educational process. And then I talk to them about what it means to have an entity, what it means to pay taxes, what it means to make sure that annually that you're paying your registration fee so that your company is staying in good standing. And then you want to possibly have people that are working for you. What does that mean to have people who are independent contractors versus employees? So truly it's an education process.
You actually said something earlier about not having any sort of representation of attorneys in your family, or like no one to look to. Was it intimidating for you, or a challenge for you to even say like, okay, I'm really going to go to law school? Because I mean, you went to Howard, so it's not like you didn't see a lot of people that look like you doing amazing things. So I'm not saying that it was super scary, but I can imagine law school to be like if you don't have people around you doing that, or same with medicine, like you don't have people who made that commitment to go beyond their undergrad degrees. Like, was it scary for you? Were you like, do I really want to do this? Or was that situation with your brother like, no, I have to?
Well, let me say that I'm originally from a different country. I'm
Oh, really?
from Dominica,
Oh, wow.
which is a Caribbean island. And my entire family is from there, and I come from a large family. So I have 11 siblings.
Oh, wow.
A sister of mine passed away
Sorry.
in 2017, so may her soul rest in peace.
Yes.
But my parents were very influential in all of us in terms of giving us the drive and determination to become something in life. So coming over to the States and establishing ourselves was extremely important to them, and making sure that we fulfill whatever dream that we set out in life. My mom wanted me to have a job, and a good job with benefits.
Right. Of course.
And I said, Mom, I hear you, but I want to do something else. I want to be in control of my destiny, because growing up, I saw my friends' parents getting laid off and getting that pink slip. And I said I wanted to have something that I could be in control of. So being an entrepreneur was something that was instilled in me early on, and something that I looked forward to doing. And in terms of being at Howard, I saw a lot of people like me who were determined. And I think Howard, well, at that time, the teachers were really good with helping us understand that when you are out there in corporate America, you're not putting in 100%. You got to put in 200%. So you always have to put your best foot forward, because you're not just representing yourself, you're representing everybody that looks like you.
Right.
So it's important to go out there and always do the best and go above and beyond in terms of your performance. So attending law school, I went to a predominantly white law school. And
Where'd you go?
I went to University of Baltimore School of Law. And at that time, the minority percentage was 9%.
Wow.
And we had our issues at that time, but Howard prepared me for that. So I felt that anything that I put my mind to, that I can accomplish.
Right.
So it was never a situation where I second-guessed myself, like, can I do this? I've had experiences where people doubted what I could do. So I remember I had a job as an intern, and at this particular law firm, they were not really, I was the first female that they hired, so they were not really, I would say, women friendly. And they were very critical about everything. So, to be honest, this particular employer stuck in my head through my entire experience. And he at one point said I was just a pretty wrapped up box with nothing in the inside. So I really took that to heart and said, I'm going to prove to you that I am somebody, and I will be somebody. So that actually has served as my driving force throughout the years, that anybody that's ever doubted me, that I'm going to show them that I am somebody, so that they would never say anything about me again.
Facts. It's so interesting that a lot of times when I talk to people, or even myself, like there's that one moment or a couple incidents of like that literally drive you because of someone's like doubt in your ability to do something. So I'm sure he's like not laughing anymore, right?
Exactly.
That's interesting. So, I mean, just
When people say, you can, I say, watch me, or yes, I can. It's just, I live in the world or the mindset that the impossible is possible. As long as you believe it, you can achieve it. I'm not a pessimist at all. I'm very optimistic in my beliefs, and I believe everything happens for a reason. And my daily life is more about the process of the day versus the end result. I really think it's important to have an open mind and live life in a way where you are living through that process, and you don't allow the past to create your future.
Right.
You understand your present and want to know what it is you want for yourself going forward, and strongly believe in who you are, and always be authentic in what you represent and live with integrity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So upon graduating from law school, what was your next step? What was it like? I mean, did you work at a law firm? I know at this point you've established your own law firm, but I don't know like the transition to even coming to Atlanta. Like, what was that decision for you?
Yeah, when I was in law school, in the beginning, I told you that Herbie Lovebug and my brother were really close friends, and I actually leaned on him a lot. So he was living in Atlanta, and I asked him where he thought I should go. Should I go to New York? Should I go to L.A.? And he said, come to Atlanta. Atlanta was the next area, was the next place for entertainment things were starting to bubble.
Nice.
And this was in the early 90s. And I said, okay. So when I came to Atlanta, being that I went to school in Baltimore, I took some time off because I was just exhausted. I had been working ever since the age of 13.
Oh, wow.
And
what was your first job?
At a camp counselor. I was a camp counselor for Elm Corps.
Wow.
In New York. And then I worked for Manpower. And then all through Howard, I worked. And then all through law school, I worked. I worked at least 20 to 25 hours a week. So when I finished law school, I just needed a break. And I moved down to Atlanta. And I was just really learning the city. It was myself and my dog. And I ended up getting a job working as a contract employee, but not as a lawyer because I hadn't taken the bar yet and hadn't passed the bar. And I was working at Austin and Byrd and doing contract review. And then I ended up working at Kilpatrick Stockton. And I ended up getting hired at Kilpatrick Stockton as a contract attorney. And then I worked in their litigation department, and then I worked in their business transactions department, working on real estate deals. And after that, while I was there, that's when I was actually doing attending a lot of open mics. And I remember having a conversation with my brother at that time. My brother, even though he wasn't successful as an artist, in '96 he went on to work with Bad Boy. When Puffy started Bad Boy, he was managed by Puff and started working as a producer, and ended up creating a lot of hits over at Bad Boy.
Nice.
From like Hypnotize, he did Money, Power, Respect, I've Been Around the World. He and D-Dot Angeletti, who we all know as the Mad Rapper, they had a company called the Mystery System. So they created a lot of hits over at Bad Boy.
Nice.
So I would call my brother and ask him, I said, Atlanta, it's a different scene for me. I don't really know a lot of people. And a lot of people talk the talk, but it doesn't appear to be real. So he said, you need to come to New York and meet with the A&Rs. So I would fly to New York once a month to attend the events that were taking
once
place.
a week.
No, not once a week, once a month. I was flying up to New York and establishing relationships with the A&Rs. And I recall getting a producer by the name of, we know him as Bangladesh, but Chandra Crawford, he was my husband at the time. He was his barber, and he was looking for a lawyer. And he said he was working on a project with Chris Bridges, who was on the radio, and he was about to come out with a project, and he wanted to have a different lawyer. And my ex had told him that, oh, my wife is a lawyer. And we met. I heard his music, and I thought it had a different sound. I said, sure, I represent you. As you know, that project that came out, Ludacris's first album, he had 6 songs on that, and he ended up having 5 on the second project, and they were both really successful. And then I started working with my brother. My brother came to me for representation. My brother was working with the likes of Luther Vandross and Aretha Franklin and Mary J. And then I came across another producer through my personal trainer. He had me meet with this gentleman by the name of Brandon Parrott, who did a record for 50 Cent. So it was actually on the 4th of July. I remember I got a call, and he said, I need you to come up to Buckhead. I have somebody I want you to meet. So I went up to Buckhead, and he said, yeah, this is a young producer from Detroit, and he has a song that he did for 50 Cent. I was like, oh, really? And he said, what is this? It's a PIMP. I was like, oh, wow, that's a huge record. Congratulations.
Right.
He said, and he doesn't have a lawyer. I was like, oh, okay.
Perfect.
So then, I just started, my name just started getting around town, and that Bernie's represent a lot of producers. So I actually created a niche practice working strictly with music producers. And after, let me jump back a little. When I was at Kilpatrick Stockton, I ended up leaving and going to the city of Atlanta, and I was working like 9 to 5, and then I was moonlighting with entertainment, with my entertainment practice. But it started growing to a point where I felt like I had 2 jobs, and at that time I had 2 kids, and it was just a lot on me. And I said, I was making more money with my moonlighting job, so I just left the city and just went on my own full time. At the end of 2002, that's when I actually opened my doors for my firm, and I haven't had a W-2 since.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's amazing. So at the time where you kind of created this, or not kind of, when you created this space to represent producers, mainly you feel like most of your clientele was coming from just like word of mouth, essentially.
It was yes, it was definitely word of mouth, and in my opinion, that's the best way, because people know that, okay, well, we're not just gonna, you're not gonna, they know your reputation, and they're not just gonna send you anything.
Absolutely. And speaking of your reputation, and something you said earlier in our conversation about your credibility. So if you're suggesting to a client like, hey, this may not be the best deal, actually, I don't really support this. Why is it important to establish that sort of reputation and that credibility to where, people understand coming to you what it is? And just in the entertainment business overall, not just for an attorney, but for the artist, the producer, the songwriter, anybody that's like listening to this, why is your credibility that important?
Oh, it's extremely important, because really that's what carries you through. That's your reputation. And when people don't, there are plenty of people who have never met me, but they've heard of me. They've heard about the work that I've done. I have clients that I represent in different states that I've never met. So it's important to have a reputation that carries weight. If your reputation is shot and someone sees you as being shady, that's not going to look good. And this is a relationship building business. If you do a bad deal, that's going to spread. And when you're no longer representing someone, that paperwork will go to another lawyer. And then most likely that lawyer is going to go through that paperwork and critique what you've done. So you want to always make sure that you are always working in your client's best interest. So again, it's not about just closing a deal and getting a check for me. It's really about evaluating the situation and whether it's a good situation. And if that client wants to step aside because, step away because I didn't want to represent that deal, then that's fine. I'm okay with that because my reputation is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what sustained you for 20 plus years in the business. That's a great mindset to have. So I have a question just in terms of when do clients come to you? It seems like just from our conversation, they come to you after they got the hit. But at what point do you recommend? No?
No, that's not true at all. I have clients, being that I've been involved in music basically all my life, and I studied music, I can read music, I have an ear for good music. I think I have the ability to tell talent and recognize talent and have an understanding of sound and whether something is going to work. There are clients that I've represented who didn't have anything out. Like a lot of my clients I worked with from the very beginning where they didn't have anything.
So at what point, I guess my question, that was just based upon what we talked about already, like Bangladesh coming to you and so on and so forth. But at what point do you recommend or do you suggest that someone should reach out for representation from an attorney standpoint? Like, when is it best?
I tell people the best time to look into an attorney is when you don't need one, because you want to make sure that you establish a relationship so that when it's ready to make that call, you know who you're going to reach out to. Because if you have a song that's out and you don't have an attorney, you're basically fishing and trying to figure out who do I call and calling your friends or searching the internet for an entertainment lawyer. And you can't believe everything you read on the internet. You have a lot of people who are promoting their images on social media like they are superstar lawyers or what have you. But it's really about the work. Like, what have you done? What are your true credentials? So you want to make sure that you interview lawyers. You sit down not just with one, but with several of them and find out what they've done. And also, can you two have a relationship? That's extremely important to be able to talk to your lawyer. When you have a question, do you feel intimidated when you call your lawyer, or are you comfortable talking to your lawyer? I've heard people say that they're scared to call their lawyer. They're scared to ask questions.
Really?
Now, that really doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Your lawyer works for you.
Right.
So you should be able to have a conversation with your lawyer. So
Absolutely.
I tell people, find one that you feel comfortable with. And then when you have a legal issue or situation or contract to be reviewed, you know who you're going to call.
Exactly. Absolutely. I'm happy you said that. And you also talked about social media. You have a presence on social media, and we obviously know, like, with technology and social media, it's just something that everybody has to kind of establish their brand online, and you want to create that online presence before somebody else does. As you said, people is a perception. But I have a question about, like, why, especially as an attorney, you choose to be or have a presence online. And does it ever negatively affect business, or has it always been a pretty positive impact for you?
Well, so far, it's been a very positive impact for me. IG, Instagram, is the new resume. When people want to find out about you, what do? They go to your Instagram. That's just what it is. And from there, if you have a link to your website, they'll search your website. But IG is your new resume. That's how people find out about you. So today, in the age of technology, you have to have a presence online. I have a LinkedIn page. I have a Facebook page, but I am very particular about what I post. I'm not just posting any and everything on social media. I'm not going to post my life story, what I do day to day, on social media. Most of what I post is related to what I do as an attorney and what I've done for my clients. And then I post more regularly because my clients ask me to.
Yeah.
They want to see that information, and it's quite interesting.
What do they look like? They just want to see you, like who you're working with. Like, what is the appeal?
Yeah, or deals that, like, in terms of deals that I've done or closed, it's usually, if I post something about it, it's because my clients wanted me to post it. It's something that they get excited about, and they want their attorney in the room, and they want to highlight their attorney, and it's important to them. So I post it.
Even from there, do a lot of people reach out to you on social media like, hey, I want you to represent me after they see you close the deal? Is that,
Oh my
do you get those inquiries a
Oh my
lot?
goodness, yes. All in my DM, yes. All in my DM. I want to get paid. Bernie gets you paid. Someone gave me that tag. It's like,
Bernie gets you paid.
Yeah, Bernie gets you paid.
Look, that's a great tag to have as an entertainment attorney. Okay. I have to ask you, dang, it just left me. Oh, negotiating deals. You've obviously, according to Instagram and beyond, you have been a part of a lot of closing a lot of deals for your clients. Not even just deals, but these complex agreements that are, difficult to probably read through for someone who isn't familiar with the jargon, product endorsements and influencer deals even. How have you been a part of, because I think a lot of times people don't understand like what all an attorney can do, especially if you're connected. So just some of the things, could you talk about some of the things that you've been able to do outside of just negotiating one of those agreements that we may not understand, or, beyond the scope of just negotiation? What are you doing for like these product endorsements? What does that mean? What does that look like when you're establishing these influencer deals?
Yes, sure. It's really important to have knowledge and understanding of your clients and where they are in terms of their brand awareness, and that helps in terms of leverage in negotiating these deals. So, based on my experience, I have a lot of that, and I'm able to negotiate deal points or remove information from the deals that have been requested of the clients based on who my client is and their brand. And for example, if you want my clients to do certain things, you have to make sure that the client is being compensated properly. Otherwise, we're going to have to take some of those requests out.
Right.
And you just have to know your client's worth. Also, I talked about the importance of relationships. When you have relationships with various companies, people like your reputation and like how you negotiate. And if you request something, they're more likely and more inclined to give it to you because they know that you have true knowledge and an understanding of the deal in terms of what it is that you're requesting. It's not far-fetched.
Right.
So I think when you are negotiating deal terms, you have to really, again, know what you're representing. Your client is the product. And in terms of how is your client positioned to the public in terms of creating that demand. All these are like marketing principles. I studied marketing at Howard.
Undergrad? Yeah, I was going to ask him, like, what is your background prior to law?
So, yeah, I understand marketing. So I'm familiar with the 5 Ps. And I approach everything in with that same aspect in terms of how I move forward when I'm working with my clients and we're going through a deal and they're asking questions. Because a lot of my clients are young. And again, my goal is to always educate them to make sure that they have knowledge and understanding of what it is that they're involved in so that they can grow in the process. And as they make more relationships, they can speak intelligently to others about
what it is.
what it is that they want to do and what they're trying to accomplish.
Now, you spoke about things that it sounds like, for someone who's just on the outside looking in, that a manager might even do in terms of like the negotiation process. So it's like you're almost in that vein of, like a manager.
Exactly. Well, it's when you're dealing in this area, you have a lot of the managers, unfortunately, are new and they don't know a lot. So they're learning. So I'm actually teaching them as well. And you're right. As the attorney, it's kind of like I'm doing a lot of the work that the manager would typically do.
Right.
That is so true. That I'm not going to deny that. Yes.
Yeah.
So sometimes I have clients say, "Well, I don't need a manager." So yes, you do. You need a manager because
this is really not my job.
This is not my job. And they don't understand that. I'm like, look, this is not my job. This is what your manager is supposed to be doing. Well, don't you have a manager?
And then it's just like, but that's true though. A lot of the managers, that these younger clients have are probably putting people around their age in that space because that's who they have available to them. But it's cool and it's great that you're willing to educate and willing to spread that knowledge to younger people. I do have a question about like my generation and the younger generation, even younger than me. Like, do you feel like younger generations are lacking any sort of like code of or like work ethics or like code of etiquette when dealing with like business? And this is a space for you to be honest, because the people who are listening are young and they're wanting to know. So don't feel like you have to limit what you want to say. I just wanted us to be real here. Like, are there moments where you're just like, why would you think that? Especially just coming from your background of being the only woman, the only minority woman in a space of business. It was certain things that I'm sure you probably just wouldn't do or say. So I'm wondering, is there like even a barrier with communicating with like a younger generation?
Well, I think with the younger generation, it's more so the sense of entitlement, where they want everything and they want it now.
We hear this every episode.
Really understanding that you really have to work and there are stages to this and you have to grow through the process, but they just want it now. I don't mind coaching them because I have children and it's important for them to understand what it means to grow and develop. Mm-hmm. And everybody needs a mentor. And you need someone that you can ask questions to and someone who's willing to give guidance. So I serve in that role to many people. And my thing is, it's okay to not know something. A lot of times people want to present that they know when they don't know. And it's okay to know when you don't know. Because if you know that you don't know, at least you're going to take the time out to learn and understand or seek out that information. Mm-hmm. The danger is when you don't know that you don't know. When you don't know that you don't know, that is a problem. Mm-hmm. So I try to help my clients understand that it's important to not know something. And the only question that's a dumb question is the one that you fail to ask. So never shy away from inquiries. Mm-hmm. If you have a question, ask it. And always be on a mission seeking out information, because we're in an industry that's constantly evolving, and you want to make sure that you stay abreast of the change and you're not operating in the days of yesterday. So you have a lot of young people who get a hold of contracts on the internet, and some of these contracts are really old and don't have current information in it. And they're using it because they don't want to ask questions.
You just want to figure it out.
And they just want to figure it out.
DIY.
And they just want to put music out. Like I had a conversation with a teenager the other day where they released music on all platforms, and they used the image and likeness of someone who was extremely popular and famous. And I said, you cannot use someone's likeness and image without permission for commercial value.
Right.
You are really setting yourself up for legal issues. That's a no-no. Just think about it. If someone took your picture and put it on a project, an album, and they're selling it all over, wouldn't you feel some type of way about
Absolutely.
that? And then you're using someone who everybody knows.
Right.
That's a no-no. You can't do that. But see, they don't want to ask questions, just want to do it. And you have to ask questions.
So what would you say what are some traits that are absolutely necessary for a successful and efficient attorney? Not specifically, entertainment attorney, I should say, like working in this business. Because, I mean, for someone like you, it's unique that your situation is that you have a background in music, specifically, like you were talent and you studied music. So that's a plus. But, like, what do you think are some important traits that are just absolutely necessary for you to survive, be successful and efficient as an entertainment attorney?
Sure. And first, I'd like to say there are different types of attorneys. You have entertainment attorneys. You have those who are able to go out and establish relationships and secure clients in that capacity. They are relationship builders. And then you have those who are the kind who stay in the office and do all the work and do all the research, but they don't have any relationship building skills. They don't have much of a personality. If you are trying to be out there building your own practice, you need to be that lawyer who knows how to build relationships. You have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to operate in your authentic self. I think that's extremely important because people are engaged in those that they believe in, someone that they feel that they can gain something from. And I think as an attorney, in entertainment in particular, you have to be a great counselor. And I consider myself to not just be an attorney, but a counselor at law because my clients, they come to me with their issues and I have to be willing to listen and counsel them on their concerns and help them get over that issue. So you have to be a great listener, and that's extremely important. And you have to have great writing skills because you have to be able to communicate your point, not just verbally, but in writing what you're trying to say to make sure that people know and understand that you mean business.
Right. That's a lot. It's like you're a therapist, a manager, a writer. You're all of the things. This is a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. But that's why you can't complain when I tell you about my fee.
Right. Exactly. Like this, I need this.
I need this.
Yes, I've been doing a lot of work. So let me ask you about, you spoke about it early on, like working for the city of Atlanta, also establishing your own practice, your own firm, but then having two sons. You have two sons. Yeah?
I do.
Yeah, having two sons, family. Talk about some of those sacrifices that you were willing to make and that you did make in order to be Miss Bernie Lawrence-Watkins now, like where we are now, years later after putting in that sort of work. Like, why were those sacrifices important? Even, I'm not sure what you may have missed out on or like what you had to sacrifice. Like, I don't know all of your story, but I'm just curious to know, like, why, or do you feel like the sacrifices were worth it in hindsight,
That's a great question. We as women have so much that we have to bear. We are not expected to just take care of the home, but also we're expected to play our role and our position in every aspect of what we choose to do. If it's in marriage, if it's in your work. So I had a lot of hats that I was wearing, and I did have to make sacrifices when I was building my practice. I couldn't be at every game. At one point, I would travel a lot. I couldn't be at every performance. And those things really, that was really, it's kind of bringing tears to my eyes.
It's okay.
That was a very emotional experience for me because I knew that I was missing out, and I really felt some type of way about it because my mindset was, what are my sons going to think about me? Or am I a bad mother because I couldn't make it to the game today, or I couldn't make it to the performance today, or I was late and I missed my son's performance. So I went through guilt trips in that regard. So it's, I tell women who are considering their businesses, family is extremely important. And you have to make decisions that are sometimes, you may regret, or they may affect you in some type of way. But always understand that you have the best interest of your family. That's what's really important with that mindset. And my sons are older now. They love me, and they don't hate me as a mom because I didn't make it to their games.
Of course.
They love me. They still love me, and they're very proud of me, and they support me in everything that I do. But I have to say, when they were younger, I really put a lot of weight on my shoulders because I felt that I was really missing out, that because here I am trying to build this practice and establish myself. And being an entrepreneur is not easy. It's a lot. And practicing law is the easy part. The difficult part is building the business, the day-to-day, the accounts receivables that you got to handle, and accounts payables, and if you have employees, make sure your employees are paid on time. And there's so much stuff that you have, supplies that are ordered in your office, and your meetings are being set up, and people that want to talk to you, they have consultations scheduled. And there's just a lot of things that you have to worry about outside of just the practice of law, and make sure that your brand is intact for your business. Is it truly what you want it to represent? So having a law practice is not any different than having any other type of business. It's a business. So you want to make sure that it's running properly. So there's a lot of time and effort and hours that go into that. And when you have a family, it's important that everyone is working together and that they're on the same page and that everyone is supporting each other's interests to make sure that it's moving along and everyone's happy.
Yeah. I mean, I know that you have a son in music. Yeah.
Yes, I do.
And so it didn't, the gene was passed down for sure to, work in the entertainment space. And so he's artist, producer?
Yes. He's an artist. Yes.
And
he's also at Howard.
He's at Howard?
Yes, he's about to graduate. Yes,
nice.
He's about to graduate.
Congrats to him.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
So he's pursuing, he's like, are you helping in that space too for his music career?
Yes, actually.
You playing momager or?
Well, not intentionally.
Yeah.
But my son had gotten a deal with RCA Records at the age of 15.
Oh, wow.
And I recognized his talent early on. Ever since he was a young toddler, I always thought he was extremely talented. I know as parents, you always think your kids are extremely talented, but I saw that I really believed in his talent. So fortunately for him, I exposed them to modeling. He did acting and music. And he signed that deal with RCA, and I obviously had to, I'm an entertainment attorney. I had to have my record label, so he had to go through my company.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
and he has an independent project that he recently put out, and we put it out through my company.
What is it called, and where can they find it?
It's Good Luck Recordings. Yeah.
The album.
Oh, excuse me. I mean, it's called Not Afraid of Heights.
Not Afraid
My
of
son's project is Not Afraid of Heights.
Nice. And what is his artist name?
Price.
Price. His name.
Yes, his
Nice.
name is Price, and that's his legal name. And he actually has a project that he's going to be dropping sometime in March as well.
Sweet. That's what's up. Yeah, I had to ask, about the artist career and how you feel, just even having a child in the same space. Did you even, you knew when he was younger that he had the talent and you identified it, but was that something you wanted or encouraged or discouraged?
Well, my thing is it's important to live your passion and understand what it is that you truly like and what is it that you're good at. You have to really search and have understanding of who you are and what you represent.
Yes.
So with him, I recognized it, but he had to recognize it. And he finally acknowledged it and said, wow, this is where I belong. And this is what he wants to do. So,
Sweet.
yes, I'm going to support him because if you're really passionate about something, you're going to be successful at it because you live it, you breathe it. It's everything to you. And I think that's extremely important. I think so many people go through life with not really knowing what it is that they want to do and not truly understanding what their true gift is. And they end up working in jobs and they're not truly fulfilled. And I think you have to, at the end of the day, you have to really have a sense of fulfillment in what it is that you're doing. You have to really be satisfied. I think going to work should never be a situation where it's like, oh man, I got to get up and go to the office. Oh, I got to go to the studio. Oh, I got to make this project. No, you should be looking forward to it. If you have to really have a grin on your face, then it's not what you should be doing. You should really search your true passion and exercise it.
Absolutely. I'm happy you said that and you left us with that statement. Do you have any advice for aspiring attorneys, like what they should be doing if they're a law student currently, an undergrad at Howard or wherever, and thinking about pursuing law, or they're like, I'm definitely in law school. I want to be where Bernie Lawrence-Watkins is. Like, I want to have an established firm. Like, what would your advice be if you could just leave them with something?
Sure. I think what I would ask them to do is really have them ask themselves what it is that they truly want to do. Why is it that they want to practice in the area of entertainment? I think a lot of people look at entertainment as
Glamorous.
Glamorous lifestyle, and because you get to go to the Grammys and all these different events and these parties and meet celebrities. That's not what it's about. Celebrities are humans. They're people just like you and me. They need someone who they can trust, someone that they can communicate with, have conversations, and someone who's going to protect their interest. So are you that person who knows how to take care of someone in a capacity where you have an understanding of what confidentiality means and what privacy means? And you are really going to work to help this person get to the next level, or just protecting their interest in general. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot of writing. And are you prepared to do that? Are you prepared to do that research?
Right.
Are you prepared to have difficult conversations? Because everybody has a good time when everything is going great. But what happens when the deal goes sour or the client's career isn't at the top anymore? You got to have difficult conversations, and it's not always a conversation that your client wants to hear, but you have to be that person who's going to tell the truth and not that person who's just there to be a yes person. So there's a lot that you have to prepare yourself for to be in this role and be someone that is respected, because there are times where you may have conversations with your client and it's not going to be the best conversation. So how do you deal with that turmoil? And how do you get over that situation? So I think it's really my advice to young aspiring attorneys is to really think about what it is that you want to do. If this is really the space for you, are you really dedicated to the process? Because it's not smooth sailing. It's not like you're going to be on rollerblades just gliding through and getting these top clients. Because
And that's for anything, really,
Exactly. Yeah, there's a process to it, and they're like, like they say, they're levels.
There are
And
levels.
Yeah, there are levels to this as well. You may come into the game and get a high profile client, and that's great. But if you're not knowledgeable about the area of entertainment law and you don't know how to negotiate the deals, how long are you going to have that client?
That's true.
So don't be afraid to have mentors, people that you can call on, ask questions to, and gain guidance, because when you get that client, you want to be able to keep that client. So make sure you have someone that you can call on, another attorney that you can work with to get those deals done, or and just learn the process.
Yes, absolutely. I'm happy you left us with that great advice. I'm sorry, I was like starting to tear up a little bit. I'm thinking about my friend who was an aspiring entertainment attorney herself, that recently passed away this past December. She was working with the Ariel over there. So
Yes,
I just started
yes.
thinking about her, because that resilience and that persistence and in this space is so it's different. It's different to really put just having those conversations. I start thinking about how hard it is, especially as a young woman, a young lady trying to get into this space. So
Yeah, and then as a woman, you really have to present yourself well, because you have to make sure people understand that you're there for business and you're not there for the party,
yeah.
if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I mean, just the same level of grace and just like class that you represented, the same as my dear friend Uche. So I have to just say rest easy, love. And those that we've lost this last year, just kind of just heavy on my heart right now. But with all that being said, you've given us such great advice for those who are still aspiring to be great attorneys, those aspiring to be great songwriters, producers, artists. So just in case they're ready to go ahead and get some deals negotiated, some contracts signed, where can they find you and get some more of this great information?
Sure, they can visit my website at www.blwapc.com. And if they're interested in becoming a new client, they can just click the new client form. They can also find information about me on social media. You go to my IG page at MYATTYBERNIE. That's my attorney, Bernie. Again, that's MYATTYBERNIE. And I'm also on LinkedIn.
Nice. Perfect. You're so well spoken and so good at what you do. I'm so excited to see you be a part of even more amazing careers. We didn't get into all of your clients, but I'm sure they can look it up and see the amazing work you've done on Instagram too. You guys can find this podcast on social media at IDM Podcast, as well as myself on all social media platforms at Sammy Approved. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
it was a
Bernie.
pleasure being here.
Thank you so much.
Sonic.